Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. For today's video, I've got a replay from the tournament that I played in yesterday against none other than HD. If I'm looking at the packs here, I think Aerial Spec looks the best. Saber Arclight is a classic combo. Probably can make Quick Supply Storm work as well, and Fire Badger Spec there doesn't look too shabby either. All of the packs are playable, but I felt like trying some aggro into HD. I know that he's a defensive player and I wanted to kind of, well, make the odds more interesting, right? Instead of both of us playing a long-range game, I tend to try and force anti-mirrors, if you will, so that both of us have to play different units. And that should be the case here. Opponent starts with Stormcallers. Pretty decent early game matchup for him. Stormcallers are known to do quite well into things like the Spiders and the Sabers, but definitely not unplayable for me. Can't complain about my pack here too much. With some good positioning, with some early crawlers, I should be able to distract the storms and then maybe we can move in. If we can manage an early level on the Saber, we'll be pushing towards that 30k hit point mark, and that is really going to be quite tough for most boards to deal with. So yeah, double crawler seems like the most logical thing. My opponent goes for double arc, and the crawlers will just be put in, well, the usual positions. Stormcallers, interestingly, in front of the tower, so this will make it a little bit harder for me to distract both of them at the same time. Should still be possible, though. And what you'll see me do is add a crawler here in the middle, and then the second crawler I'm going to opt to be a bit more greedy and kind of keep it on the back line, right? Already set up a second chaff wave because I know that the line will be moving forward starting round 2, and I want to be able to make good use of it then, instead of already having both crawlers on the round 1 line. We are playing asymmetrical, of course. Again, I want to try and snowball, and what better playstyle to pick to snowball than aggro. You'll see here the pool works quite well. Only one Stormcaller insta-locking my Saber, but that can be fixed next round. The Arclights should be quite useful. We've got a pretty decent split of the crawlers. Should buy us some time. We've got one stray crawler here of my opponent aiming for a tower, but I don't think that'll impact the round. It'll probably be over before this little guy manages to achieve anything. Saber's doing a pretty good job here. At least we got rid of all of his Arclights, and it looks like we should be getting rid of his Stormcallers as well. Maybe with a debuff, we can't even win this, but yeah, Saber's not that fast. And so even with that debuff, I think the Stormcallers will recover. And that'll be all she wrote for round 1. Now let's have a look at what round 2 has to offer, and it's going to be free units right away. Out of the options here, Wraith doesn't look too appealing. There is a Marksman there, so that's the counter right away. Typhoon is quite expensive, and I'm not the biggest fan of playing those paired with Arclights and Sabers. I feel like I don't need the chaff clear. And so that kind of leaves either Marksman for myself, which is a better scaling option, or Rhino for some tempo. And at this point I think, well, I'm Aerial Spec, so let's make use of it. Let's get that free unlock on the Wasp, and then pair that up with the Rhino on the left tower. This is quite hard to deal with if you're not reading it perfectly, and so I felt like I should be able to get some tempo off of it and grab the tower. And maybe with that tower debuff, the Sabers will be able to get in and maybe grab an early level, and then from there we could snowball. So we buy a Wasp, and another Crawler. And that Crawler is going to be sitting on the right side to distract those Stormcallers that were insta-locking my Saber last round. Rhino will walk past those Stormcallers with the help of the Wasp, and so we will get our 9 seconds of debuff. And all of our important units are still alive to make use of that. Both of the Sabers there working away, close to leveling, and there is that level 3 loot pinata of a Marksman sitting next to the tower, and that will be going to the Saber. And look at that, even the other one managing to level 2. Fantastic round for me here. I strike back instantly with quite a lot of damage. That's nearly 1,000. And managed to pick up the crucial levels on the Sabers to keep this ball rolling and hopefully close this game out before I might get outskilled, because that can be a concern when you're playing a board like this. Now round number 3, we've got a bunch of spells available. Fortified Arclight. It's an interesting card, but I think Into the Storms and Marksman it won't achieve much. Mass-produced Wasp, I don't really want to nerf my Wasp, and I don't necessarily plan on buying more of them. Orbital is a good spell, but I don't think there's too much to hit here. The The board is quite spread out, so didn't really want to invest into that. And that leaves electromagnetic impact. Now, I can skip here, but electromagnetic impact has a lot of value in the late game. And it's a pretty cheap spell with a low cooldown, so I'm willing to pick it up here because I thought maybe my opponent would shield, expecting an orbital. And so going for the preemptive EMP on this side, I was targeting a shield that I was expecting there. We'll have to see how it goes though, as my opponent doesn't pick up the orbital and goes for the oil instead from the tower. I will still be running in this Rhino. I do add a crawler here on the shallow flank, main reason being I was hoping to bait this missile, which does end up going down, but sadly the splash still hits my Rhino. We also added a Wasp on the flank on the right to at least, well, protect our flank and also kind of to arrive late and annoy that marksman. Opponent doesn't respect the Wasp too much, just buys double Fang. And sadly we are stuck in oil right now, so it's kind of hard to move forward. Wasps are doing what they can, but the left side attack was not that successful. Gets stunted, and that Rhino goes down. Let's see what these Sabers can offer, though. And wow, that went down real fast. Yeah, this level 3 marksman is just shooting freely as my units are being slowed. And we'll probably even manage, yeah, with the help of the Stormcallers, to take this round. So, HD immediately dealing damage right back at me. And so now we enter round 4 with Ion Blast being offered. Mobilized Battleship available too, Haste Module and Shield Airdrop. Lots of things available, but round 4, I have to say, Ion Blast usually looking quite tempting. It's a really, really cheap red spell for how much damage it can deal. And it also has a low cooldown for a red spell of only 3 rounds. So it's often an insta-pick, but my opponent opting to go for the Haste Module there. I definitely was quite surprised about this because I thought he had a decent line of units to hit. But I guess with the oil, he can probably kill my units anyway. Well, that is if he has units remaining, because we're going to try and aim that Ion Beam right over top his units. And now we get Mustangs from HD. So it wasn't just going to be the Fangs against the Wasp. He actually gets a dedicated counter in the form of those Mustangs, and that's what the Haste Module is going to be for, I presume. Fire. Now also clicked on the Incendiary to try and light my board on fire, but I don't think that's a very good pick. Half of these crawlers are sitting outside of the fire and will probably just die to the arc lights anyway. And on this side, all I have is this third pack of crawlers. So I don't think this is that great value. Also, my opponent there, another missile being expended to deal with the Wasps. And I decide to go for double Mustang on the left. Main reason being is I expected an Ion Beam on this side. I guess fire has a similar effect, and so I just wanted to try and avoid the brunt of the spell. But Ion doesn't get utilized, and instead it's going to be me with the Ion Beam, and well, we do push through on the right side, right? The fire being ignited means my Sabers are no longer slowed, and we should be taking the round. And yeah, you can definitely see how strong these units can be. Just kind of powering through the enemy board, and with the amount of hit points that they have, they won't be going down, and I deal a little bit more chip damage. Round number 5, and we get Acid Blast Enhancement Module Laser Sight. Laser Sight could be a really nice item for the Stags, and my opponent doesn't think too long about it. However, I do have Enhancement Module available, and I think to myself, well, the Rhino is ready to level, the Wasps are not too far from leveling, and these ones aren't either. So I can see a course of action where I maybe level an Arc, sell it, then level the Rhino, keep that for one more turn on the board, try and force maybe a response, sell it, hopefully the Wasps will level, and then I can just, yeah, keep leveling stuff, sell it for free, make profit, and kind of advance the board in that way. We do opt to go for more Mustang. Mustang Saber is a pretty nice combination, by the way, and I mean, look at the amount of Fangs, right, that were being purchased. I do need an answer against that, so that's why we go for the Mustangs. And we immediately opt to get range. Opponent gets range on his Mustangs as well, has range on the arc lights now too, and that we just keep running in over here. Crawlers have been added to try and maybe distract the enemy units, perhaps bait a missile. I will have to see how this goes. Stormcallers, though, dealing a lot of damage. That's a level 2 Rhino, but it looks like it'll just keep going, or it will be going down before getting to tower. Right side looking a little bit better, but that fire is being somewhat annoying, I have to say. And some of my Mustangs are burning up. Left side, unsuccessful. And the right side will fall now as well. That marksman has been so valuable. And round 5 will be going over to my opponent. Now round number 6. Orbital shows up yet again. There's a Rhino Assault there too, but now both of us will be picking that Orbital. There's much more on the board to hit. And, well, it's a pretty cheap spell that can achieve a lot, so it makes sense to go for this. The nice thing is that it does show up on the turn my electromagnetic impact comes back. That means I'll be able to hit a potential shield, and so the Orbital will get even more value. And now we see double Fortress coming out of my opponent. I sell the Rhino, level the Wasp, because they did actually pick up enough experience, at least this one did. And now we'll just see what we want to do. And I opted to go for a field maintenance play. Main reason being, I looked at my opponent's board and it didn't have Fortresses just yet, and it was relatively low damage, right? We've just got level 1 Storms with Incendiary, we've got Arclights level 1 with range, and we've got Mustangs. The only thing that really deals damage is this Marksman, but there's no such thing on the left side, or at least there wasn't. And I don't think he should be able to kill this field maintenance. Keep in mind, I'm not trying here to keep my Sabers on the board forever. I can definitely transition this into like a Ford Mustang board, or in this case, maybe a Melter Mustang board. But this will give me a nice bit of tempo. And yeah, I'll just see like how much damage I can potentially do with a tempo play like this. It doesn't cost too much, and it will definitely force him to get a better DPS response. We of course shield, trying to save some of our Mustangs here if we can. And I mean, look at the damage from these guys, right? Level 2 Sabertooth packs a real punch, and if it can lock onto a Fortress, it can go toe-to-toe with it. Even better, it can simply outright win. And look at how many units we've got alive, right? We get the debuff, and so this Sabertooth that was on the verge of dying heals back up. The Marksman now goes down, and that is a ton of damage, right? That's 800 from the Sabers, and then some more from those Mustang packs and Wasp packs that are still alive, and suddenly our opponent is down to 1350. Round number 7, no Melter show up, quite happy about this, and we see Farseer there being offered. For my opponent, I wasn't really expecting Sandworm. Wraith could have been an option, I have to say, but with Farseer being offered, it's a bit tough to go for that, because it's likely I'll just pick this up and click EMP. And so I thought my opponent would go for the Farseer as well. And because of that, what you'll see me do here is just go for more Mustangs and click the Missile Interceptor tech. It is the most efficient interception tech that's available, and I would definitely recommend you try this out if you're up against mass missiles, so like a couple Storms. In this case, double Storm with tech, or something like Farseer or Phantom. And yeah, I'm really happy here when I'll see that my opponent did go for EMP Farseer, and I'll be able to intercept his shots. The idea being, I think, that he can maybe turn off the field maintenance and then kill my units with his fortresses, but we'll just have to see if that is possible. And look at the amount of Mustangs, right? Very, very powerful board, I would say. The oil is back off cooldown, though. And my opponent goes for range on the fortresses, buys 2 more of those, and is also loaning. Feeling very uncomfortable at the low hit point total he's at. We'll have to see, though, if we can actually intercept all of the fire. I'm not sure we will. Only needs 1 missile to land there to set this on fire. Well, for now, it looks like we are holding on. And look at these Farseers, unable to hit anything. Just shooting into the void. Looks like 1 Saber there will go down, but the other one's still alive, and this guy is now level 3, and you can just see this Fortress trying to kill it, but the healing is simply too much. Left side finally will crumble, but I still do have that Farseer that is disabling the range, and the Mustangs, I have to say, are doing pretty decent into those fortresses as well. Saber now moving in on the right. Sadly, this oil still hasn't been ignited, so maybe that would have been nice because I'll have to deal with it one more time. But it looks like at least we will be winning this round. Doesn't seem like that's enough for 1350 damage, but it'll be awfully close to killing my opponent. And we do take down the final fortress. And 391 is the remaining hit point total. Another electromagnetic impact shows up, and this is the turn that my orbital comes back off cooldown, or my ion beam, rather. Opponent picks up the steel ball production line, but yeah, I would not be comfortable sitting in my opponent's shoes here. And this is the power of Ion Blast, right? When it shows up so early, you simply will get it back before the end of the game. And if your opponent doesn't pick it, well, now I'm really favored and I might just be able to close things out. So we go EMP to try and get rid of any shields, and then Ion on top of it. Enhancement module, by the way, has been used so far to sell that. An arc light, a rhino, a wasp, and another wasp there. So a bunch of levels being picked up, and this is where I can now start building a potential late game board, right? This is late game insurance. The Sabers did really well, and they've picked up some rounds, but I can still just buy Melters and play Mustang Melter into Fortress, which should be a winning matchup. Note that I will be stacking both of them here on the left, and I preemptively decided to put the enhancement module on that Melter for the stats. And honestly, I thought it would probably level even if we happen to lose this round. But I am playing for a win. Right side, I think, doesn't need a Melter. We've got big Sabers there, and we've got the Ion for extra damage as well. Opponent will pick up 2 levels, so 2 blue forts, and also a Vulcan to try and set this on fire, guaranteed. No missiles needed for that. But man, look at that electromagnetic impact value. Looks like we're grazing the fortress there, but it will almost go down, and as that Vulcan falls, I think the fortress won't be too far behind. And this fortress is just getting permanently EMP'd. I think it was just outside the shield, so it got hit by the impact. Right side will win. That should be a tower debuff, and the left side now, the Melters are finding their mark. And the Mustangs are sitting very safe in front of the Melter, protecting it, distracting the units, intercepting missiles, and that will be a round 8 win. So that's how we do it. I think pretty clean aggro game overall. It does showcase the power of Saber. It's something I don't play too often, but in this game I was relatively happy with how I piloted it. Yeah, keep in mind field maintenance can be quite powerful, right? You don't need to necessarily play for like end game Saber with range and double shot. Sometimes it's just okay to use it in the mid game to create some tempo and then just build a board around it that you can transition to something else, right? The Sabers are just one part of my army, and then eventually in the late game, I can start building towards the Melters. I think for my opponent, I was a bit surprised that he went for Fortresses there. I was expecting him to go for something like Melter. But yeah, going into Fortress kind of showed me his hand, and then from then on I was just, okay, I'll play the tempo, I'll play the cards, the spells, and then eventually I'll just get my own Melters, and I should get a good matchup, right? The Mustangs are great into the Fangs, the Intercept is great into the Stormcallers and the Farseer, and then eventually Melter will be added into those Fortress, and we kind of have that Saber intermediary as a good DPS option and good mid-game tank. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. Do you like Sabers? Do you like playing field maintenance? Let me know your thoughts. If you want to stay up to date with the latest content, please do consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.